Welcome to the Your Next Move podcast. And today we have a new friend of mine, Anna Stewart, and we are going to talk about confidence and your identity. So Anna was a teen parent who struggled with her identity and confidence for years. She found herself people pleasing, which is something that so many of us struggle with. I know I've personally struggled with it as well. And that left you to feel kind of lost, and you wanted to be accepted and useful to others during that time. Eventually you reached your breaking point, which we're going to hear about today. And you realized that you were just existing, not living, and you were over it. Right? And she's been doing this work with her clients and also in her corporate job, which I also find so interesting. Now she coaches women on how to get clear and confident in their identity so that they can validate themselves and live in authenticity. Yes. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you.
So Anna is someone who I met when we were at an event. And I was working in the lobby of the, well, actually, let's not even say I was working. I went down to the lobby with my laptop with the intention to work. We met. And I never opened the laptop. Never opened the laptop. We ended up sharing an Uber ride to the airport. And when you started talking about identity and confidence, I was like, oh, we need to talk about this on the podcast.
Yes.
It was so good. So when you chat about struggling with identity and confidence, I think that this is where many professionals are. I know I was there as well. I think, honestly, I probably still struggle with it a little bit. Where do you feel this started for you personally?
For me personally, I think it started a lot because I became a parent at such a young age. I got pregnant at 15 years old. So I became a mother at 16. My brain wasn't even fully developed. I missed a lot of the finding yourself and learning yourself years that a lot of people do in their early 20s and mid 20s because I was so focused on my daughter and raising her. And then in addition to that, it kind of was a personality thing. I've kind of always enjoyed serving, and I have a big heart, and I like being there for others. And sometimes when you are naturally like that, when you're naturally an empathetic person, you can kind of go too far in that, and it's really important to have those boundaries, and I just didn't have them.
That's so important to almost like recognize that that's where it came from. I know for me, I talk about my father a lot in my book, so Next Move, Best Move, and I don't want to say he was militant, but he is a veteran, and I wanted to stay in alignment. I wanted to do what I was supposed to do. And as a child, you do what you're supposed to do by listening to your parents. And one of the things I've learned in therapy, my therapist always says, who said that? Who told you that that was true? And sometimes I'll sit and I'm like, was that my dad? Was it my mom? Was it a family member? Was it society? Because sometimes it's not me. And when you struggle with self-confidence and your identity, we have so many messages coming to us that we take as fact when it may not actually be fact. It's something that you learned. I love that. So your message is centered around being a heart-centered woman. Yes. What is the meaning behind that?
A heart-centered woman is essentially a woman who is learning her voice, who knows who she is. And she gets clear and confident that in that way because she is able to identify her values and what she truly stands for and identify herself outside of all of the relationships that she has. So there's nothing wrong with loving being a mother, loving being a wife, loving being whatever else, but it's important to know who you are outside of those labels. Like, who are you? What are your core characters? And I struggled, like, when I was struggling with my identity, like, I didn't even know what my hobbies were. Like, if you asked me what I wanted to do for fun, I couldn't answer you.
Oh my
because I was like, I don't know, what do I didn't make time for it. So it's really getting clear on who you are and what's important to you, and then building that confidence so that you can validate yourself instead of seeking that external validation, and set boundaries and confidently say no so that you're living in authenticity.
I think so many people can identify with that. I think whether it's your job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's friends, like whatever it is, when you are busy and thriving in so many areas of your life, you can throw yourself into that and you could wake up. I remember I had a moment like that. I was like, what do I like to watch on TV?
Yes.
Like, because when I'm watching TV, normally I'm watching with someone else and I'm just like, whatever you want to watch. I'm like, but when I'm sitting by myself, what do I want to put on the TV? What actually makes me feel good? I think it's something that a lot of people, like, they can disappear into, whether it's a person or it's a situation.
Yeah.
And it's tough to kind of start recovering some of that when you're stressed, you're doing all these things.
Yeah, we forget about ourselves and we forget that that is equally important. who you are and what you enjoy, and having pleasure and having self-care and having satisfaction is so important. And we forget about that. We put ourselves on the back burner. We just completely forget about it.
All the time. So you mentioned before about knowing what your core values are, knowing what you value. What would you say your core values are? I'd put you on the spot.
One of my core values is pleasure, personal growth. And I say pleasure, that was something that I really had to identify recently because, again, getting caught up in living the day-to-day, getting caught up in I'm an employee, I'm a mother, I'm all these other things, and not enjoying life. And I forgot how much I just enjoy the simple things. Like I love going for a hike and just sitting by the water and watching like the frogs and the like turtles and everything else like that, or pleasure from traveling, or pleasure from painting. Even though I have no skill in painting, I still just enjoy the experience. And so just pleasure, personal growth, family is a big priority for me, connections, communication. Those are some of my core values.
I love that. And I tell people, I think as an entrepreneur, I think you just have this sense of monetize. Like everything you do has to be monetized. So I love that you said like, I'm painting and I'm not even good at it. Nope. I'm doing it because I enjoy it. I think for me, one of the things I recently started doing, I realized that I used to love to read. I loved to read. And I started reading only business and personal development books. If it wasn't that, then I didn't do it. If I didn't have highlights and flags, then it wasn't worth me reading it. Yeah. And I woke up one day, I'm like, I want to read what I want to read. Yeah. And I started reading like trash romance novels. Awesome. And these are things I'll only put on my Kindle because you can't see what I'm reading. Like, don't read over my shoulder. Don't look at the cover of the book because it's not going to be some business personal development. It's just for the pure enjoyment of it. And I feel like I rediscovered something that I used to do like years ago. But when I became a business owner, I was like, no, but if I ain't learning, then I can't be reading.
So true.
Because the list got so big. If you go in my office in the window, all there are just books that are just like, oh, someone said to buy this to help you change your life. So I bought it to change my life. But then I got so overwhelmed I couldn't read it anymore.
I am so exactly guilty of that same exact thing. That's another thing in the pleasure that I've just started doing in the last year is reading fiction books. Yes. I haven't read fiction books in like a decade at least. Because I was so focused on developing myself and achieving and moving forward towards the next goal. But life is so short and we have to live right now because tomorrow is not promised. 100%. And if we're just spending our entire day focused on goal achieving and we're not enjoying experiencing things and living and touching things and feeling things and seeing things and opening ourselves up to new things, then we're really not living, and that's no way to be.
I love that. So let's take it back just a little bit again. I feel like I'm going back and forward, but let's go back. What was the breaking point where you were like, yeah, nah, I can't do this no more?
It was actually moving to Texas.
Oh, okay.
So I moved to Texas, I think when I was 25, we'll say 25. I think it was just before I turned 26. And prior to that, I had found myself in Michigan in a lot of relationships that were not serving me. Okay. Again, because I didn't know who I was, I let everyone else tell me who I was. Sometimes it was for good, sometimes it was for bad, but even if they had my best interests at heart, it just really wasn't me. And so I had the opportunity to move to Texas for work. And when I got to Texas, I realized that I was starting to create those same relationships again. Okay. And I was starting to be used in the same way I was before. And I was starting to be people made me feel the way I used to feel. And I didn't want to feel that anymore. And so that was like, you kind of have to get to a point where you're just sick of your own stuff and like really recognizing that if I am in a new environment and these same situations are showing up, then who's the problem? It's probably me.
Yeah. And that's such a bad feeling when you're like, what could I have done? Like I had to do something and I chose to do the same bad things. Like what is wrong with me?
So that was my breaking point for sure.
Oh gosh, I love that. And because I think it's an obvious like turning the corner moment. Yes. And it also takes a lot of self-assessment because I think some people who aren't ready to do that work, they could have gone into that environment and been like, I don't know what happened. Like, but you're looking like, hey, everything is new but me. Yeah. So what can I do to change this?
Absolutely.
I think I see that moment a lot with myself when it comes to health and wellness. It's something that I've struggled with for years and I'm almost at that breaking point. Yeah. I think in particular, recording this podcast, last night I had some nachos. I know my behind doesn't do dairy well. I was so sick last night.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh, I was so sick. And I was like, Kim, you did this to yourself. You know you shouldn't have had those daggone nachos.
Yeah.
But I wanted comfort. I wanted to feel good. It's like, but I know if I want to hit my goals, if I want to have a hot girl summer, then I need to stop eating nachos, specifically nachos with like a super creamy, delicious Gouda cheese. I couldn't help it, but I did it to myself. Oh my God, amazing. But I was sick all night. I knew I had this today.
Yeah.
Why would I let myself be sick all night?
Right.
And that was a turning point for me where I was like, no, Kim, you know better.
Right.
You know better. And I think sometimes that's like a simple example of like not eating the things that we should eat. But I think it's even deeper when you realize that you're doing the things that impact your life, impact your career, impact your relationships, and you want so badly for them to change. That has even a bigger impact than having a hot girl summer sometimes.
Yeah.
So you talk also about confidence. How do you define confidence?
So confidence to me isn't necessarily the way other people might look at it. Yeah. So I think a lot of time people think that if you're confident, then you're never scared.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're ever going to reach that. I don't know if there's a person in this world who doesn't deal with fear. I suppose if you're not experiencing fear, then maybe you're a sociopath. No offense, but
I hear you.
Fear is a natural human emotion. And so confidence to me is practicing courage. It's practicing doing it even when you are terrified to do it. It's getting out there and saying, I know I'm scared, but I know I want this. So I'm going to take my fear with me and here we go. We're going to do this. And that's confidence to me.
I love that. I think I got asked a question in one of our Q&A episodes, like, what if I know I need to go forward, but I'm scared? Like, I'd rather stay in a job that's stagnant than one with growth potential because I'm scared. I'm like, you should be scared of this time next year being in the same exact spot.
Yes.
And knowing it was in your power to take a step, even if it is a baby step, even if it's a 5-step process and you make it 15, you should be happy that you at least took the 1, the 2, the 3 versus doing nothing.
Absolutely. Progress is progress. We're not searching for perfection. We're not searching for overnight success. We're just searching to make one step that's going to make us a little bit better than we were yesterday.
And then you build confidence with each step. You're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. Or maybe it was terrible, but you like the outcome that happened. So you do it again and you do it again. I love that. So let's go back to people pleasing.
Yes.
Because that is, I think, something that we all struggle with. And maybe not all, some people may not feel that way, but I know that it's very common for a lot of people to naturally want to do something in the best interest of someone else instead of themselves. So what would you say is the key to begin the journey of stopping people pleasing?
I think recognizing why you people please. Most people please because they have a fear of rejection, because they're seeking that outside validation so much. Not knowing that you are a good person unless someone else tells you you're a good person, or someone else finds you useful, or you're doing instead of being. And so really recognizing that you yourself have worth, just inherent worth, inherent value that you don't have to do anything to earn. Really recognizing that and getting comfortable with like accepting that as your truth. And then deciding, who do I want to be for me? How do I want to live my life? And how am I going to decide that I'm doing the correct thing? That internal validation instead of that external validation. And also making peace that no matter what you do, some people aren't going to be happy. And we have to get rid of this idea that we can make others happy, or we can make them like us, or whatever. It's no matter, you could poop roses, it doesn't matter. Like someone's always going to be mad. They're going to be like, why weren't they violets?
Exactly. I don't even like roses.
Exactly. So you just get away from this ridiculous idea that you are going to ever do enough to make someone happy. Their happiness is their business. It's not yours. And focus on what is your responsibility, which is your own happiness.
And how do you start the process of validating yourself?
Practice. I think anytime you're trying out a new skill, because it is a skill, it's not necessarily something, some people are inherently born with it. That's wonderful, but it's a skill you can develop. So practicing validating yourself is practicing putting yourself out there, feeling the discomfort and getting used to that feeling and being okay with it. Changing up your self-talk, reframing your thoughts, and saying, instead of beating yourself up and saying, I suck, I'm worthless, I hate this, start with something simple that says, you know, you might not believe I'm amazing, but maybe I can say, I'm not the greatest at this, but at least I can try. And just start with kind of reframing it there. Start with a simple reframe.
One of someone who we both know, Maya Elias, who's also a guest on this podcast, at her event Impact Weekend, she said something like, if I know that my language is words of affirmation, why am I not affirming myself every single day?
Yes.
And when she said that, it was the biggest gut punch for me.
Yes.
Because I know words of affirmation is something that I look for in relationships. So I literally went home and I wrote affirmations on a lot of my windows. In my apartment, I have a lot of natural light. So I literally wrote, so every time I look at a window, I'm looking also at an affirmation of myself. They're on my mirrors in the bathroom. So I'm going to make sure that I get the validation that I need. And that was something so small, but it makes such a difference. Even if I'm having a crappy day, I look out the window and I see something there and I'm like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Let me bring it back.
You're speaking to like taking care of yourself.
Yes.
Like, and that is so true. Like, do your love language to yourself and take care of yourself. Be your own best friend. Be kind to yourself. Say kind words to yourself. And plaster it everywhere. Become your biggest cheerleader. For sure.
And it's not to say that it's not nice to get it elsewhere, but it's important that you kind of fill your own cup. So when anyone else comes in, it's just overflow.
What I like to think of it as is other people are confirmation of what I already know to be true. Like, there's nothing wrong with seeking wise counsel. We all should seek wise counsel, but the wise counsel should be confirmation, because we are connected to our inner knowing. We're getting our downloads straight from our higher power.
Yeah.
And we are walking out there and saying, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to get everything right. I can do this and I can be okay with the mistakes along the way. And everyone else is just confirming what I already know about myself.
I love it. You said it a lot better than I did. So as we're getting closer to a close, when would someone know it's time to hire a coach like you? Because I think even just me thinking about myself, let's say 10 years back, I didn't know about work to become confident, to better understand my identity. What would be some key indicators that someone would know they need to reach out to someone like you?
Well, two things. If you have been struggling in the same way you've been struggling, let's not continue the definition of insanity and let's try something different.
Yes.
We tried it all these other ways. Let's switch it up and try something new. But the real reason why anyone should ever hire a coach is if you want to get there faster with less stress.
Yeah.
If you want to make the road easier because you want to work with someone who has the experience, who has the guidance to get you there, and you want to have more support. You know, a lot of times we don't have the support or the influence or the role models in our life. And so you want to get yourself in a circle with like-minded people, and getting a coach is a great way there. So if you are sick and tired of your own stuff, sick of trying to do it the same way and it's not working, it's time to hire a coach.
I love that. So what is next for you? Give us a scoop. What's going on?
So I am currently putting together a group coaching program to kind of talk about the same exact thing with, I kind of have a framework with build boundaries and balance. And those are the different stages that I'm going to be taking people. I'm moving from one-on-one coaching that I've done with my day job and turning it into a group coaching program with a proven framework to kind of help people move faster from kind of people pleasing and this low self-confidence and confusion about who they really are, and get them to a point where they are confident in who they are and feel like they can live in authenticity and stand up for themselves and not waver with the wind, pretty much.
I love that. I love that. So last but not least, where can the people learn about you? Where can they go to find you?
I am on Instagram at anna.stewart16.
Okay.
And my website is theheartcenteredwoman.club.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
I so appreciate it. And with that, y'all, may your next move be your very best move. Have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to the Your Next Move podcast. Don't forget to share this episode with a colleague or friend so we can all level up together. If you enjoyed today's episode, please write a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And lastly, if you're looking to join a community of thriving professionals, I invite you to join the Next Move Best Move community, my private community of professionals that includes the Manifest Yourself signature leadership development courses, monthly lunch and learns, and more. For more information, please go to kimberlybeonline.com/community. Until next week, remember to make your next move your very best move.